What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined by Rachel Mogan.
What's up?
And Team Chat Podcast is a video game podcast where we talk about games, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do that by sending us an email at teamchatpodcast@gmail.com, following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and subscribing to our iTunes and YouTube channels. If you want to support the show, you can do that as well by going to patreon.com/teamchatpodcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can support the show, and in return, we will give you a cool perk like getting the episodes early before the general Tuesday release, as well as access to our private Team Chat Podcast Discord server.
Boom.
Now, Zach sadly couldn't join us for this episode, but he will be back next week, so never fear.
It took him like 5 tries to get the intro
It
right.
did.
This time,
It's weird whenever whenever one of us is missing, it just
throws
the whole thing
off.
Exactly. Although that was in perfect sync, so we're gonna have a good show today.
Now we're back on track.
We're back on track.
Just need a little group synergy.
There we go. We got it now. So an update for our song contest from a couple weeks ago. The game was submitted to us by Mogan, Andrew Mogan, and his hint was, who needs a hammer when you've got a nail? The game was Hollow Knight.
Which I should have guessed because I know that he's been playing it a lot. The thing is, I haven't played it, and I don't know any of the soundtrack.
Yeah, which makes
so I was like,
makes it difficult.
Just would have been a shot in the dark.
And it's one that, like, I mean, obviously, it's pretty good from what I listened to from when he submitted the track. But it's also, for me, I sometimes don't like to listen to soundtracks if I haven't played the game yet, just because it does, there are truly great ones that you can listen to without having any context of the game, and you're like, ooh, this is really, really good.
What's the super non-contextual Far Cry ending theme that's like, this does not belong in Far Cry?
Oh, it's from Far Cry 3 Further by Serena McKinney.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
In fact, it's better without Far Cry. That song is better without Far Cry.
Yeah, and it's one that you can listen to and you're like, this is great. But you're having no context for the game, and that's what, helps it make it better. So I sometimes like to wait and listen to it. Plus, sometimes, track listings can have spoilers.
That's true.
Got to stay away from those spoilers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I hate spoilers. But so this week is the first of our new format for dealing with soundtracks. Because, as we've said many times before, we love soundtracks. They're an integral part of our gaming experience and just our normal everyday lives because we listen to them so much. And we want to be able to have a part of the show to share our appreciation and all of our listeners' appreciation for soundtracks. So we're starting now going away from the contest aspect of it where we have to try to guess a winner, because more often than not, that would just be us coming back to one of us being like, oh, okay, nobody guessed it. Because, as we said, soundtracks are sometimes hard to identify. So we're going into this new method where we're going to do Soundtrack Spotlight, where you can all still submit your own soundtracks to us, and then we'll just pick one from that pool each week. And again, same kind of thing. We'll rotate between being our pick to being a listener pick, so we can have a wide variety of soundtracks for us to all listen to and enjoy. So we do have our first submission for that this week. It'll be at the end of the episode, as usual, like we used to do with the song contest, but it's from Brandon Weaver, so stick around for that little fun bit of musical joy. All right, before we get into our main topic, let's have a little bit of news with the moment with Mogan.
We've got all kinds of news. So we'll start with our favorite thing my favorite thing that I love to talk about, and it's all about me on Team Chat Podcast.
At least for the moment with Mogan.
At least for the moment with Mogan. So in Overwatch League news, as people may know by now, Stage 2 has officially started. So Stage 1 saw the victory of the New York Excelsior. Stage 1 coming out of the gate. Stage 2, coming out of the gate.
Wait. New York Excelsior?
Yeah.
I thought Spitfire won.
No. Oh, wait, yes, they did.
Yeah, Spitfire won.
Oh, Spitfire
won. They beat
won.
the Excelsior.
Oh, that's right. Just kidding. I thought for sure that New York had won.
No. It was them in the final, but it was Spitfire who took the championship.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Sorry.
All right, so Spitfire. Anyway, so speaking of the Spitfire, this news kind of is related to them. So one of their team members that we saw almost none of on Stage 1, Fisher, and that's spelled like not a fisherman, but like a fisher, like a crack in the ground.
Yeah.
Fisher was pretty nonplussed that he was getting like no play time and not being on starting lines, and on such a large roster as the Spitfire had, he was like, you know what, I don't need this, so he transferred. Fisher has transferred to the LA Gladiators. Ooh. And that his first time playing would have been when we're recording. It would have been Wednesday of last week.
Okay. because today is Thursday.
Correct.
So we were just actually watching Houston Outlaws versus Spitfire while we were getting set up.
That's right. So the Spitfire no longer have Fisher, but that being said, they were one of the teams to have the fastest filled up roster. So at this stage, it's really like, well, yeah, we're probably going to start to see more transfers happen, more team members move around a little bit, and Fisher is the first one of those. Fisher is considered like one of the top tanks in the world. He's probably at least top 1 to 3 tanks in the Overwatch League right now, so I'm really excited to see him play. Tanks are my favorite ones to watch.
Yeah, those are really fun because especially, tanks can be difficult. Like they have a lot of health, but still, like they can sometimes be like Roadhog's my favorite tank, and he's a joy. He's a joy to play. He's a joy, absolute joy. But still, sometimes you have to do balance his lower damage to like low ammo reserved with all of his massive health. It can get confusing.
Sure.
Has the Dynasty played yet?
Dynasty played the LA Valiant.
Okay, so they played.
Yes.
Okay,
they played on Wednesday of last week.
I always say her name wrong. Gaguri, right?
No, she's not in
Gaguri?
yet.
Is it Gaguri or Gaguri?
It's Gaguri.
Gaguri. Okay.
Not
so
like Gregory.
I know.
and,
I always wanted, for
you
some
know
reason,
that
wanted to
she's
say
not
like
with Soul.
Gregory. I know. No, I thought she was with the Shanghai Dynasty.
Yeah, she's with the Dragons.
Okay, so Dragons.
You said Soul, and I was like, what?
Sorry. No, yeah, the Shanghai Dragons.
No,
And
she wasn't. They did play last week. You are correct about that, but she's not in yet.
Okay.
And I'm betting money that the real reason for that is simply the language barrier.
Yeah,
she's having to learn Chinese to be able to speak with her new team
tough.
members, and they do have to practice together. So obviously that team synergy is really important. They have to get practice time in with her, and her being signed was really recent in the first place.
That's true, but I'm really excited to see her play.
I know. I can't wait. I'm sure that they'll probably announce it like maybe on their Twitter page or something like that when they actually have her join the official roster and actually get play time.
Nice.
And in other news, Metal Gear Survive, the game that we were all really confused about, it has been revealed that the game will charge you $10 if you want to start a new save file without deleting the old one.
What?
So
okay, I totally missed that bit of news.
This is new. That's because this came out like today and or yesterday.
Oh my God.
So Metal Gear Survive is going to charge you if you want to start a new save file without deleting your previous one and your previous characters. $10.
What?
To start a new save file.
That is absurd.
Now, I think that
I have heard some crazy things in my day.
At the time that we're recording, I will say, I think that this news had just broke and it's kind of still a developing story. So even what I was able to find on it was pretty sparse, but it was like factual $9.99.
Holy shit.
You have to buy a new save file, basically.
That's ridiculous.
I know, right?
Thank God, as first impressions of that game seem to be that it's crap.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will go die in a fire.
Yeah, for real. I don't know what they were thinking with that one, but if we learn more information on that, we'll be sure to update the episode after the fact.
I already had zero interest in that game.
And now it's like
negative.
In fact, it's negative $10.
Yeah, negative $10. Exactly. I mean, yeah.
And then,
that's crazy.
Yeah. In other news, that's kind of related to a lot of stuff that was happening last year, but has kind of come more into the spotlight because of some insider sources. The popular game Paladins. Are you familiar with Paladins? Yep. An insider source recently spoke with, I believe it was Game Informer?
It
was one of them. GameSpot or Game Informer, I can't remember who. Somebody spoke with an insider source at High Res, the studio that does Paladins, and they revealed that the recent update to the card system. So, like, in Paladins, you can get basically stat cards, and you can do like a deck build out, and it affects your play in game. They changed the way that you get cards and the way that you basically have those abilities affect you in game. And essentially what they're saying is that it really kind of is pay to win now. And basically what was really interesting about this particular article was that the source was saying that within Hi-Res's studio, there was a clear division of people who did not want that to happen versus the people who did want that change to go through. And it was simply a matter of top executives said, we're doing this. And the entire development team was like, we hate that. And we don't want this to happen. So apparently there's been a bit of friction within the studio itself surrounding this new card update. And I'm interested to see if that might become more of an issue for other studios further down the line. Because if you can't get your own development team on board with the changes you're trying to push through, that should
be a sign.
It's gonna make your end product suffer, because if you're having high turnover of your own development team, you're not gonna get a quality product.
Yep.
So I just thought that was really interesting. That's why I included it.
That is interesting. We'll have to ask the guys over at BRG, because they just did that that thing where they have the people come on and they like play a game and then like for like a month and then review it. So they were doing that with Paladins.
Gotcha.
at the end of last year, so they're pretty familiar with it. We'll have to check in with them and see.
Yeah, I want to know what their thoughts are on that.
Warped. Let us know.
And then beginning March 1st, players of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon will be able to get your new downloadable legendary Pokemon. Cool. So for the month of March, those are going to be old classics from Diamond and Pearl, Regigigas, and Heatran. Heatran, yeah, that's right. And unlike the previous ones of Dialga and Palkia, those were available by downloading once you went to an actual GameStop store. Okay. The new ones are on a new system, so you'll be able to get download codes for Regigigas and Heatran in March through the Trainer Club newsletter.
Say Regigigas 5 times fast.
I know you can. And if you've ever heard Regigigas say his own name in the Pokemon shows, it's terrifying. Oh my god, because he's like a robot, I guess. He's steel type, right? It's worse than that. Oh, it's crazy. You'll have to look it up sometime. Anyway, so you'll be able to get these new Pokemon, again, by getting download codes from the Trainer Club newsletters. So that is going to be different than last time. They are, of course, free, though. So you can sign up for the Trainer Club newsletters totally for free through Nintendo's online system. So you can get those for nothing, literally. Cool. And then out now, De Blob 2 for PS4 and Xbox One. Immortal Redneck, Xbox One. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either.
But whatever. Payday 2 for Switch. Riftstar Raiders for Xbox One and coming soon. We have Bravo Team for PS VR on March 6th. We have Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition for PS4, Xbox One, and PC March 6th. We have Frantics for PS4. Scribblenauts Showdown for Switch, PS4, and Xbox One, both of which come out also March 6th.
Nice. Did you see that speaking of Switch games and things like that, that the Doom on Switch got updated with motion controls?
I wonder if that makes it better or worse.
I'm assuming it makes it better.
Also, real quick, so I was talking to Bro Mogan the other day. And now I really want to play it because of that. That's probably fantastic. Just real quick, I want to make this clear for anyone that's new to owning a Switch or that simply doesn't know this. The Switch Pro controllers, which you can buy optionally, they don't come with the Switch, but you can buy them. They do have motion controls built in.
So you can use those.
Because I was talking to Bro Mogan and I was like, oh yeah, I was playing with the Pro controller, and he was like, oh man, so it must have been easier without the motion controls. And I was like, no. The motion controls are still on. So just for everybody's information, it's got motion controls built in.
There you go. The more you know.
The more you know.
The more you know. Well, thank you for all those news and updates and recent and upcoming releases.
You're quite welcome. My mouth is kind of tired now, so I think it's your turn to talk about the topic of the day.
The topic of the day. Well, see, now it's in a bit of a conundrum because I was going to have you go first because yours is the more recent. Is the more recent of our topics.
No, we should start with the old one and then go work our way up to the present.
Okay, so for our topic today, we wanted to do a couple different things, which is also now somewhat of a new change in how we're going to refer to things in our Team Chat podcast nomenclature. Indeed. So instead of now calling a game that just comes out and when we talk about it for the first time, and if we haven't finished playing it yet, instead of calling it a review, we're going to call it our first impression. I believe is what we agreed upon. Yes, first impressions of game. So we have a first impression of a game coming up for you later from Mogan and a wrap-up review for me, because now we were talking about it is like, that doesn't make sense because we had a couple games, not very many, but like Destiny games and The Division, where we initially played, we're like, this is fun. Then after we spend a lot of hours in it, we're like, this is not as good. And we want to be able to accurately reflect those changes. So that's why we're doing now our first impressions, which is the first time we get to play a game, and when we're still mid-game and we want to talk about it, then we'll have reviews, which are the final, here's our official scoring, here's how we feel about this game.
So just so everybody knows, review implies that you've actually finished the game.
Yes.
Or you've gotten to a point where you've decided you're personally done with it and you're going to stop. Case in point, Uncharted 2. I got about
at least to the point where you finished. I know a lot of games these days, Destiny is a never ending because they'll Destiny or even the game I'm going to talk about are never ending. But when you've reached the point where you completed the campaign or we're just completely done with it, that's when we can come back and be like, here's my final review. Because you may have quit playing it because you absolutely hated it.
And sometimes you get Uncharted 2 hours into a game and you're like, not again. You just have to quit.
I'm going to say, I need to play Uncharted 2 so I can see if I make it farther than you did.
I probably will.
But I'm interested to see if if 2 hours into Uncharted 2, I'm like, oh, this is a lot of the same, or if I have a different opinion.
I got past mission 1, and it was on cutscene number 2 of the next arc of the game, and I was like, no, I'm not doing it again.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay, so The full review now, wrap-up review that I'm going to be giving is on For Honor. Hey everybody, I need to make a quick correction to this review for For Honor before we get too far into it. In the review, I refer to the game's currency as salvage, and I realized after we recorded the episode that I left out that there are actually two forms of currency. Salvage is what you use to upgrade your gear and your weapons, whereas the actual currency of the game that you use to purchase outfits and emotes, executions, and all that is referred to as steel. So if I'm talking about buying emotes and things like that, and I say salvage, I mean steel. When I'm talking about upgrading your weapons and your armor, I'm referring to salvage, which is what I actually call it in the episode. So that was a big enough correction. I felt like I needed to come in and make this extra point post-recording. So now, back to your regularly scheduled programming. The game recently hit its 1-year anniversary. It has gone through the first release of all the new heroes, new maps, new modes, and so it's starting its year 2, which in year 2, season 5, which is the Age of Wolves, is what it's being called. So they're doing a lot of cool events now.
Is that based on the Year of the Doggo?
You know, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it probably is. I think I'm right.
I think it has some correlation back into the single-player campaign. So for those of you who don't know, not aware, not a super fan of the game, For Honor is a medieval fighting game, basically. Like originally, I kind of thought it was going to be more of an action-adventure, but it really is straight up just a fighting game, similar in vein to Tekken. Not, except it's not 2D side to side. It's more of it's a 3D. I mean, I know that those games have 3D aspects to them. The map has a little bit of depth, but this is completely 3D. You're moving around, in a 3D world in space. But fighting game. Each hero is its own unique unit with its own unique move set. Where you have to learn the combos and how they interact against and counter and block all the different characters. And that is at its core what this game is. But it just takes place with 3 different factions: the Knights, the Samurai, and the Vikings. When you start playing the game, you can choose which faction you want to ally with. You can also change at any time. But if you change within a season, you do not receive. If say you're playing as a knight, you see the knights are losing terribly, and you switch to the winning team, you will not receive winning team.
So you
rewards.
jump ship like a coward. You don't deserve the reward. That's a good system.
It's a good system. I have been a knight since day one.
Of course you have.
A knight.
You Jerrett #basic.
Honestly, though, it was a choice between that or the
I'm surprised
samurai.
you didn't go with Viking.
Nah. Well, now I wish I had. Because, and I'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
Because of one of their heroes that came out.
Oh, you are a Genji main. I forgot about that.
There we go.
Oh my god,
I have
so
always
lame.
liked the samurai. The samurai are a great ancient warrior. So anyway, when the game came out, like obviously I talked about it then, I was very favorable because for me, this has been a game that I've honestly waited my whole life for. That to have this level of now, granted, I know it's not realistic. But to still have that level of combat where you have to choose your guard, choose your attack, choose your defensive stance, all these different things has been something that I've wanted for a very long time, being a huge fan of medieval history and warfare. So instantly that gave the game a lot of bonus points. It has a very high learning curve, though, saying that. Because learning all of the different stances and all the different attacks and guards and what have you of all the different heroes can be very complex. So really, and that was one of the initial things that came out as being a big knock against the game. People were like, it's going to take so many hours to play to be able to level up your character all the way. And Ubisoft's response was, but we're kind of expecting that each person would pick a main character and you focus on that one to level up. And everybody's like, but then why did you, blah, blah, started going back and forth.
See, what's
honestly
interesting,
now, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say what's interesting about that is I feel like most gamers that actually come from traditional fighter games would be completely okay with that system because that's how every fighter game is. You've got a roster of like 20 plus characters in all cases.
You can't be amazing
There's
at all
no
of them.
way you can learn all of them realistically. You pick like 2 to 3
Yeah.
and those are your mains, and then you just kind of learn how the game works on the side so that you can at least passively random your friends. You know how it is.
Right.
So I do really wonder, I know that you haven't played a ton of fighting games in the past, like traditional ones like Tekken,
I've tried.
Street
I'm not very
Fighter,
good.
what's that other one that I don't
The
like?
big one, Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
When I was listing them off earlier, I was like, there's another big one. I should know the name.
I was blanking on it too. I was blanking on it. Yeah, so like big classics like that, I do wonder if you had been more familiar with that system, if you wouldn't have found the prospect of learning those move sets quite as daunting.
Yeah, and probably so. But so that was a big thing, when the game launched. But now here we sit a year later, I'm like, oh, that makes complete sense. Like, I don't understand why that was such a big kerfuffle back in the day because
people don't want to learn, Jerrett.
well, I have 3 that I would, and I do the same with Overwatch. Like, I'm decent. I can play just about any character on Overwatch. Not great, but I can play them. And same with this game. But I try to pick. I've picked my 3, one from each of the factions that I like. Like, this is my main one. So I'll get into that in just a little bit. But basically, there are these different game modes that you can play. You can do 1-on-1 duels, 2-on-2, which they call brawls. You can do death matches, which are 4-on-4. And those have 2 different modes of either just being a elimination or skirmish is what they call them. Elimination is basically it starts off, you're in a duel 1-on-1 with someone, you kill that opponent. You can either go stand and watch your other teammates fight an opponent and wait for them to either kill or be killed, and then you can move on from there. It's obviously it's the meta that's arisen around the game. It's the thing of being an honorable thing of where you stand there and wait for your opponents.
Oh, so you're not supposed to like go over and start bullying other people with them?
People do.
I was about to say that's horse apples. I want to go kick people's asses.
But still, it's like you got a good game on your hands when like you're still fighting an opponent and an enemy comes up and just stands there and waits for the fight to resolve. And I'm like, oh, this is great.
I like that honorable aspect. I mean, on the one hand, I hate it.
Well, actually, the game will actually dock points from your kill if it'll call it a dishonorable kill, and it'll knock like 10 points off this kill score if you gang up or like a 2-on-1 or like come in at the last minute and take the kill away, stuff like that. So, the game is somewhat built to relay that, but people still do what people want to do.
People still
do
what
I mean?
It's about sending a message, Jerrett.
Exactly. But anyway, so and then there's Dominion, which is zone control, 3 zones across a map, and you have to try to control them and rank out and get enough score points to where it causes the enemy team to break, which means they have no respawn if they are killed. And then once you kill off the other team, the game's over. And now they introduced it, I believe, in Season 4, a new game mode called Tribute, which is where there are these 3 altars placed around the map. You have to take an offering, which is basically a staff. You have to pick it up from one location on the map and run it back to a altar. And once you activate the Tribute, it will then give your team a buff. And then the other enemy team can go and try to take that away. And now I'm blanking on what you would do to have to win. It's still score-based, but I think obviously you can get all 3 for your team.
Okay.
Then it's going to benefit you best,
so
or that
it's like
might actually win the
weird
game.
warped capture the flag.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's a pretty fun mode.
Yeah,
I haven't
like
played it
the
as
sound
much
of that.
because it's more new. It's a more new addition to the game. I haven't played it as much as the other modes, but it's still a fun new one, and it's nice to see that they're going to be introducing more modes into the game as time goes on, because they still have, we're in year 2. Games like this now, they don't necessarily have an end date on when they'll stop making for it. Just, I guess it depends on how active the game is, and the games does have a very strong user base still, or player base still. So they got that Tribute. They also introduced tournaments and ranked play for Tribute Dominion. They even have tournaments where you can go and play through, and you'll receive like unique rewards at the end based on your characters and all that. Let's see, checking all my notes. So the new heroes. So each season they introduce a new hero. Obviously, the first season was just the release of the game, and here are all the heroes that you have. Then in season 2, they introduced 2 new heroes: the Centurion and the Shinobi. Yes,
I think I remember you talking about that.
The Centurion and Shinobi,
Yeah.
which was the first bit of, obviously, like any new game, you introduce a new hero like that throws off everything, and everybody's like, OP! Shut it down! And that's what everybody thought with the Centurion. Ridiculously hard character to fight, just because he introduced really close quarters combat to it. Some of his moves would drain your stamina really quickly if you were able to fall prey to his attacks. So, that was the first big toss-up, I guess, that came along during the game. Season 3 saw the introduction of the Gladiator and Highlander, which the Gladiator is also another knight hero. The Highlander is a Viking hero, which is
sense.
my main from the Vikings.
Not surprised.
Had the Highlander been a day 1 release, I'm sure I would have gone with the Knights. With the Vikings as my main faction.
Did you used to watch Samurai Jack?
No, actually, I've missed that one.
Because there's the one side character that's like Jack's basically good buddy, the Scotsman.
Okay.
And I just in my head, I'm picturing whoever this Highlander is as the Scotsman from Samurai
So I
Jack.
actually, after I talked about the last one, I actually did take a screenshot of all of my of my 3 mains. So I'll show them to you in here in a second.
Okay, cool.
Pop them up on the screen for everybody watching at home on youtube.com/teamchatpodcast. So and then in season 4, they introduced the last 2 of the year 1 heroes, the Shaman and Aramusha. The Shaman also goes to the Vikings. Aramusha is Samurai, and the Aramusha is my 3rd.
Oh,
main.
okay.
And he is a dual-wielding samurai. He is badass. Love him a lot. But the Highlander is pretty cool, too, because he's a huge sword. Obviously a Scotsman. Big fan of William Wallace and all that. And my ancestral home of Scotland. So
Sure.
had to go for that Highlander. And, of course, who can forget the 80s cult classic Highlander movie?
I was about to say that's really the one that anybody ever thinks of.
Which, honestly, have you seen that movie? Have you watched it recently?
I've seen the fight scene that takes place in a parking garage.
Yeah.
A
like at the
1,000
very
times.
beginning.
Oh, is that at the beginning? Yeah. Okay. I have no concept of what actually happens in that movie. I just know that there can only be one.
Yeah, there can only be. That movie is honestly I spent so much of it watching it, just going what? Is the thing you had to be there, in the 80s?
You just had to be on a lot of cocaine.
Why is Sean
at the time.
Connery playing a Spaniard, but he still has a Scottish accent?
That's so dumb.
What's going on? But I still own it on Blu-ray, and it's amazing in its own
whatever.
way.
Sure.
But anyway, all those different things are going on. They also will have periodic events, like they had a Halloween event, they had a Christmas event. Right now they're doing an anniversary event where you fight characters from the single-player campaign, that either the bosses or the playable characters from the single-player campaign.
NPCs.
Yeah.
Oh,
so you'll
cool.
fight against them. It's AI only. Oh, and all these game modes that you have, side note, you can have the option to either play them against other people or as AI.
That's nice.
Now the game,
practice.
Yeah, exactly. Now all of that goes... And that's in the multiplayer. There is a single-player campaign where you will rotate from you'll play the Knight story, the Viking story, and the Samurai story. And in that, you're fighting there's the big bad Apollyon, and the story unravels as you go along about how she's how she's in control of the Knight faction, and then how it all comes together, and how she's trying to kind of start this all-out war thing. Mild spoiler. Won't go any further than that. So anyway... The majority of this game is obviously meant to be played in multiplayer, so there's a lot of that. And then, so that's basically a good, that's a pretty solid overview, I guess, of what's going on and how the gameplay mechanics of this game. So I'll go through now, briefly, some of the pros and cons about this. So obviously, like I said, like I alluded to earlier, it has incredibly in-depth combat. Love it. Obviously, with a game like this, if that was off, it would not be near as good, and people would have fled long ago. There's also an excellent hero roster. All the different heroes that I play as, they have great looks, great costumes, great customization, great. And that's the other thing. You can also they do a really good job of having gear drops and everything that you can either unlock through the salvage that you can use. You get salvage by completing maps, completing special orders, which give you either additional XP and salvage. And you can also dismantle previous groups of... You can dismantle old sets of armor and weapons and different stuff like that, which will give you more salvage you can then use to upgrade the stuff you do want to use. So you have all that. Obviously, the gear and outfit is a really cool thing. This is actually the first game that I really do spend stuff salvage on outfit items and cosmetics. Overwatch and this game are the only two that I do.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because it is really fun to make your character look really badass and just get him all this really great gear stats and everything.
Can you customize Darth Vader in Battlefront?
No.
You can't make him wear...
There was a mod that came
sucks.
out that came out with Battlefront 2 when the EA came out and they were like, that doesn't make sense for us to sell cosmetic updates because you can't really change the look of Darth Vader. That's dumb. So then somebody immediately made a mod where he's in bright pink.
That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted.
It's amazing.
Thank God for mods.
So you have that. Ubisoft does a really good job of keeping the heroes balanced. Obviously, like any game, same in Overwatch, you throw in a new character, it throws things off for a little bit, and then they realize, ooh, we got to reevaluate because now this old character does really bad against this character. This character is now, it's a little strong. We need to tone it down a little bit and see and see if we can get it to fit better in with the established meta of the game. So, but they do a really good job of that. They don't wait for the new seasons. They wait. They will release weekly patches or bi-weekly patches, whatever, as they need to take care of things. They've done a really good job of that, contrary to what the subreddit might think. I feel like they keep it pretty.
But the community is always more outraged than the situation actually warrants.
Exactly. The orders are a fun way to provide yourself with additional XP. It'll be things like get a 5 kill streak without dying. Get this much reputation by the end of a game, got your score. Get that much, like 600 reputation by the end of a match and all that. And that will give you an XP boost, some additional salvage depending on what it is. And then each time which then feeds into the ranking system, which is every 20th rank, you gain a reputation. So right now, again, I don't play as much as probably a lot of other people. Right now, the highest reputation you can get a character is 50. Because I have played around with a lot of different other characters and everything, my highest is my Warden, which is in the Knight faction, and I'm almost to 7 with him.
Oh, wow.
But I have several other Rep 1 characters.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like I'm not playing at all.
Gotcha.
And so I like to try out the new characters, and then I finally settle on them. Warden has always been my main go-to since day one, but I've messed around with the Lawbringer, obviously the Orochi, which is a samurai assassin character. I've played around a whole lot before deciding on my three mains.
So one of the main villains of classic game Okami
is Orochi. Yeah, we were just talking about that, and I had that thought we were talking about. That's like the samurai guy in
same
For Honor. So yeah, there's do a lot to customize, make your dude look your own. So I'll go ahead and show that now. The different customization options that you have for your characters.
I bet they all look like trash.
Nah.
Just kidding.
Okay, so here's the Aramusha.
Oh, okay. He's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, pretty badass looking.
Like his hat.
Yeah, which it's like that's a pretty field of view blocker right there, buddy. There's my Highlander.
All right, he is pretty cool.
Isn't that cool?
He kind of does look like the Scotsman from Samurai Jack. Like, just for the people watching at home,
let's get this.
That's definitely what he looks like.
So, you'll get different chests and different things that will have a different layout here. I obviously chose this one that has the tartan because it just looks really cool.
That's not the McLean family tartan.
And then you can even change on the sword. This is what's cool. So, like, with each character, you can upgrade their helmet, arm guards, their chest, and that's it. And then you can also upgrade your sword handle, your guard, and then the blade itself. Those are all the different things you can choose. Then you can change the ornament, which in this case for the Highlander is this set of antlers, which I had to pay extra salvage for. I had to buy an outfit to get it, which was 15,000 salvage. But I was like, oh hell yes, I'm getting those badass antlers. So that's the Highlander, and then the last one is my Warden, who I've decked out with this really badass looking spiked helmet. He kind of looks like a Templar. Yeah, he really does.
He's the most Dark Soulsy one of the group.
Yeah, he really is. Got the spiked shoulder pads and on him. Oh, awesome.
I like his little skirt. His
gold-bladed, golden, whatever it is. There's gold in his blade. I can't get the word out.
Oh, the inlay?
The inlay. Thank you. So those are my three main characters that I've got going on.
What do you call them? In your head? Do you have names for them?
No, really, I don't.
You're so boring.
I just Warden, Highlander, and Aramusha. I'm sorry.
Clearly,
I'm too busy trying to learn all the moves to be thinking about names. Joseph.
Joseph is the Warden. That is his official name. It's the most knighty sounding name I could think of. The Scotsman is. What should the Scotsman be?
He could be like Donnie or something because he has this. So they each have. As you perform moves, they have voice lines and everything that you say. His big one is you go into one of his attacks and he goes Dom McGlass. So,
that's probably his family name. He's probably just shouting his family name.
And then Aramush is actually pretty silent.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll call him Takahiro.
There we go. Boom. So let's see. So I will say this game is the first game. It does have a very balanced economy. It does have microtransactions as games as this type do. You can spend real money to buy salvage, which you can then use to either upgrade your character, upgrade your abilities, or your armor, your weapons, and different things like that. Or you can use it to unlock new outfits, executions, emotes, typical microtransaction stuff. This game, though, it has never felt like one, though, where I feel like I have to spend the money to be able to upgrade the stuff. I'm able to easily upgrade the equipment I want to upgrade with the amount of money that I've either made as rewards from seasons endings, normal gameplay, and any other bonuses that come my way. They also will, as for season rewards, will give you like a free box of gear salvage that you can then turn in to get premium gear drops. Basically, I have 26 of those stored up.
Nice.
And I just haven't wanted to spend them yet because I've been trying to get. You really don't start getting good stuff to your higher reps, so I don't want to spend them all on like my level 1 guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't do me any good. So it does have a very balanced economy, whereas I've never felt like, oh God, I got to spend $10 to get enough gold to do this stuff. This is also the very first game I've ever purchased a season pass for.
Oh, okay.
Because I knew I would want to play all the different heroes. It automatically unlocks all the heroes when they come out, gives you access to them a week early, and some other smaller benefits to it as well, like some extra XP bonuses and stuff like that. And I haven't regretted it. I haven't felt like it was a waste of money.
You haven't been like, I want my money back.
Exactly. So I feel like the game does have it. It's another instance of microtransactions done well. Like it doesn't impede the game. It doesn't hinder the game. It's a very well handled system.
And they're not super intrusive.
No. It's a totally player choice.
Very good.
Actually in this new season they actually unlocked it where you could spend 500 salvage to be able to get an XP boost for a round. Which I feel like is a nice thing, because especially if you know you're going to finish an order on that round and you're trying to like really jack up your dude's experience, you could buy the extra XP, get that nice sweet bonus on that.
There are no actual microtransactions in Splatoon, but like from in-game play, you can get a certain type of currency where that enables you to buy an item that gives you an XP boost for a certain amount of rounds.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got you. We're on the same wavelength.
We're on the same wavelength. The last big thing that is cool pro is this mini game that the game has called the Faction War. And basically, so there are the 3 factions, and then it has this map when you open up the game and you're looking in the multiplayer menu, and it shows like there's the Knights territory, Vikings territory, and Samurai. And as you play the game, you can choose to allot after each round your troops. They have it where you can plant like a war banner where all your troops after each round will go into that section, and you can either use it to attack enemy's territory or defend one of your own. And so, based on how many troops are deployed and then how many territories are owned at the end of each campaign, is what determines who wins a season or a round. Because there are battles, which are what take place on a daily basis, that ends in campaigns, which are what takes place every week, I want to say, week-ish. And then there's the end of the actual season, which has, so there are 5 campaigns per season.
Okay.
And whoever wins the most at the end is who does that. So that's just a fun game to like kind of think about, because it's be like, oh, this one's being attacked by like plus 1 million troops because there's so many guys coming. So you like throw your defenses there for one round. The next one you like move them over to this one. Next day you play or whatever. So that's just a fun little mini game that helps just keep, it helps have that little bit extra bit of rivalry in the game and everything, and then also is a great tool for having these extra rewards given to players at the end of whichever faction is able to win the game.
Is there a faction that's like the clear favorite in terms of sheer popularity?
It actually kind of varies. It used to be Samurai. Like when the game started,
I was about to say,
it was Samurai.
I feel like it would be Samurai.
Then about mid-year, it became the Vikings. And now it kind of seems to be switching to the Knights. So we'll see how the game goes on. And it probably also varies just due to the type of hero. Now, if you ally yourself to a faction, you are not locked into playing only that faction's heroes. You can still play across any hero in any faction that you want. Your points just go towards your allied faction.
Gotcha.
So now the cons.
Oh boy, here it comes.
There actually aren't that many.
Okay.
But they can be, I guess, kind of big. Notice I said this is a multiplayer and a single player game, but I have yet to say really anything about the single player, because single player sucks.
Oh, does it really?
I get it with fighting games. They normally have somewhat of a lighter story because they don't want to bog you down with huge, intense, long cutscenes because they're just trying to get you to the action. I get that. Still, though, the whole time, I did not understand why I was doing the things I was doing in the single player campaign. I did not understand. I didn't necessarily get the end goal that I was shooting after and why I was supposed to care about this Apollyon character and why she was trying to do what she was trying to do. Like I'm not intentionally trying to be vague to avoid spoilers. I honestly really don't get what she's trying to do. I felt like the writing was a little lazy also. Didn't really have, like, the dialogue felt very forced and very
Very like bad NPC dialogue.
Very modern for an ancient game.
Oh, okay. So they
you
didn't
know what I'm
really play
saying?
up the historical factor
Exactly.
a lot.
Like they said phrases that I'm like, you wouldn't have said that back then.
I see.
That kind of stuff. The voice acting was also not that great either. A lot of I will say that the voice actress who does Apollyon does a pretty good job, but like there's this one character you come across, Civ. She's a Viking berserker that you fight against, and all of her lines are like screamed.
Really?
And it's just, I don't know. And it's not just her in that way. Like a lot of these voices, like the characters for the samurai who did the voice, the samurai characters didn't sound very Japanese. It's just some weird things like that were kind of odd. And then the soundtrack also, I love a good soundtrack, but it's just not the best. It's just kind of like it's music there.
Yeah. I mean, really,
every once in a while you hear like a good like motif or something. You're like, oh, that's cool. I wish I could have more of that, but it's just like a recurring like looped thing.
I mean, the only fighting game that has a soundtrack that is actually worthy of being mentioned is, of course, the Tekken series with its stellar soundtrack,
we've heard
spanning
some from
many decades of joy and wonder. Yes, because they're so good.
It's interesting. And then the big one that's actually about to be I'm hoping will be fixed is there have been issues with servers and being disconnected and lagging games and stuff like that. Then that is because Ubisoft didn't give the game dedicated servers. Which
the
I
same
get.
problems with Splatoon.
I get because it's a new IP. You didn't know how well it was going to be picked up, and much less how long it was going to be played and how long it was going to be popular. So why would you dedicate a whole like section of your servers to this game?
Yeah.
But now it's in year 2. As of the 19th, PC players now have dedicated servers. Console players will be getting them soon.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that this will go
away. Yeah, that's really nice.
I'm hoping that will go away.
Lucky. We still can't get dedicated servers for Splatoon.
I've seen you and Fuchsia and Ark and Nick all kind of
bemoaning it.
Yeah, I get it. It's a big problem when you're just trying to play a game and then it's like, but the servers just won't let you.
It's like, I know you were having fun, but have you considered not having fun?
It's a good way of putting it. So really, that's it. I still am having a lot of fun with the game. It's one that I don't play as often as others. Like I was saying before we started, that I'm having to like basically force myself to stop playing Overwatch because I need to be playing other things.
It's just so fun.
It is just so fun, and For Honor has that time with me. Like since these new events and the new season started, I've been playing it a little bit more. I really enjoy getting into it and learning, trying to still finesse my move set and learning how to best combat other characters. I still have a ton of fun with the game. I think if you are a fan of fighting games, it brings something new and unique to the genre, and I think you should check it out. If I were to give it I don't like our like percentage of hate.
I love the percentage of hate.
I would say until we haven't set anything else up yet, I'm going to stick with it. I will say that I love it 70%.
Okay, see, was that so hard?
It's not that
hard. So that's
hard.
a 30% hate
I would
index.
I would still highly recommend.
Really? So only 70%.
Well, because I would like more from the single player.
Okay.
I would have liked more in that. I think that even though it's not the main focus, I felt like it was definitely felt more of an add-on than a actual part that they wanted to really do.
Right.
And so that's kind of where the big knock comes from. I think, So I would sit at a solid 70.
All right. Fair enough. So switching just as many gears as we can, we're going to go to a vastly different world. So this is going to be Team Chat's first impression.
How do you do first impressions?
And we're going to be doing it for, I've recently learned that the correct pronunciation is Fe. It is not, in fact, Fe. So this would be the game, for anyone that's looking to actually look it up on Google, it's stylized as Fe. One of our patrons, Ark, made a great joke. I'm sure you can hear my eyes rolling about iron deficiency. It is like the periodical, what's it called?
Periodic table of elements?
It's periodic table of elements. I was going to be like the periodic spreadsheet of something. I don't know. Shows how much I paid attention in science. But yes, it is in fact the abbreviation for iron, which is Fe. So Fe is a game that's published by EA, there we go. Because we were talking about Ubisoft, I wanted to say Ubisoft. Yeah. No, it's published by EA Originals. So we briefly touched on EA's many woes pretty recently regarding our episode on Microsoft. And EA Originals is the subsidiary of EA that focuses solely on indie games. So it's published on EA Originals, but the developer of Fe is Zoink.
Okay.
So Zoink Games, which is a Scandinavian-based gaming studio. And I will go on ahead and say right off the bat that Scandinavian influence is everywhere in Fe.
Really?
In a very good way.
Nice.
So it's not the kind of game... There's been a lot of comparisons drawn from Fe to other contemporaries like Journey, Ori and the Blind Forest, and a couple of others. However, I would really say that one of the most comparable experiences I personally have been able to make that contrast of is take Okami, take out all of the people, and take out all of the combat. And what you're left with is very similar to what Fe is. So this is not the kind of game where you're really fighting anything per se. You do have goals, and there are certain enemies that you're trying to get around, but you don't fight anything. It's much more a puzzle platforming experience in a very interesting packaged deal. So you basically start the game with no explanation, no setup. This is very much a minimalistic game. And when you're actually looking at it physically, it's got that really nice low poly styling where all of the elements in game are like very geometric. They're very polygonal?
Sure.
I'm struggling with my words today, but they're just very low poly styling. However, the aesthetic laid over that in terms of the color schemes used by the game are just a treat for the eyes.
It's looked really great.
That game
especially
is
some of the
pure
screenshots
eye
you've
candy.
shared.
Oh my gosh. Oh, my hilarious one on Twitter because I'm so
I
funny, which
liked
I'm
it.
actually not going to mention because that's kind of a spoiler. So actually, if you're
Now
looking...
I'm sad I looked at it.
Yeah, if you're looking forward to the game, actually don't look at my Twitter.
Spoilers
Yeah,
abound.
like spoilers abound. Just don't look at them. Scroll past. Keep scrolling. So the game is absolutely gorgeous to look at. The environments they're not super wide open like Breath of the Wild. They are more on an enclosed scale because it's an indie game. You know, it's not a huge, massive experience like Skyrim or Breath of the Wild, but it does have a high exploration factor, and the environments that you're exploring are really engaging and just beautiful to exist in.
So it's not a 2D platform like Ori.
No, it is not.
Okay, so
No,
it's more
this is-
open. It's like a linear open
This
world.
is absolutely a linear open world. So you can progress through the game in a variety of different ways, but there are certain benchmarks that you have to hit to really be able to move on to the next section.
Okay.
So let's just set this up with kind of the first initial stages of the game. So I am going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. So for anybody that's wanting to know more about it, you shouldn't have to worry about that here.
Because the game's only, by the time of this release, is 2 weeks?
It'll only be about 2 weeks old. And just a quick setup, it is available for all platforms. So PS4, Xbox One, and Switch, it is only $20.
Nice.
The game is literally a steal. And for the quality that you're actually getting, I think it's probably worth more. So I would absolutely say right off the bat, it's worth the money. So if you're thinking about it, get it. So the way the game starts is you kind of zoom in on the world that you're going to be traversing into. It is never stated if this is Earth or an alien planet or some sort of alternate fairy world, which a lot of Scandinavian folklore does have kind of like a parallel world that's basically inhabited by ghosts and spirits. It's never stated if any of that is even remotely true. My personal thought is that it's an alien world. I just think that that's what it is. And you zoom in on this alien world, and what you see are 5, I believe, little meteorites, and you kind of follow them as they crash to Earth. And one of those meteorites is you, who I assume is Fe. So in my head, I will admit I actively call your little fox character Ori. I really do.
Because they kind of look a little
similar. Looks
similar.
like it kind of does.
Fe's just like a purplish, right?
So Fe is actually technically
Ori's
black.
white?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
Ori is white, and Fe is actually black. And depending on what ability you have active at the time, you could be black and gold, black and green, black and purple, black and blue. You actually are really pretty, like as your own little creature, and you're adorable. You're so cute. So in my own personal head, you as Ori, and you're not. Again, I just want to make clear, you're not Ori, but that's what I call myself in the game. You just sort of crash land and you immediately go into gameplay. The game does not give you any explanation of the controls. It's just like, all right, have fun, kid. Get out there. You got this. And one of the first encounters that you have is just, it sets the tone for what you can expect from the game, which is a very sweet encounter with just other creatures in nature. So the whole premise of Fe is that you are trying to befriend the local flora and fauna, and you do that by singing. And it's actually really cute how you do this. So it actually took me longer than I would like to admit to figure out how it actually works. You try to match your tone in your song with that of another animal.
Oh, interesting.
So like if I walk up to you and I'm like, song? And you're like, nope, other song. Yeah, exactly. And you're like, okay, I got this. And on the Switch version, at least, you can use motion controls or the sticks to match your pitch.
Interesting.
So what you're really trying to do is sing and match the pitch of the other creature. And once you, as in the Switch version, you feel it, like you feel the rumble in your controller. And when you feel that you've got the pitch right, you hold it for as still and as long as you can, and then eventually the song connects. So by matching another creature's tone and its particular pitch for the song, you basically befriend them. And
Nice.
like once you get the pitch right, the other creature's like, yay, I'm so excited. Like they don't talk to you obviously, but you're like, yes, I've made friends.
Yeah.
This is great. And even the whole game's explanation system, literally just like one sentence comes up on screen and it's like, sing gently with animals. And I'm like, okay, I will happily do that. This game, I will say, ticks off a lot of my personal Pikmin boxes. Like the way that I approach Pikmin from a very protective stance of like, these are my creatures,
Yeah.
I'm in charge of them, I have to keep them all safe. Like those feelings very much are activated by Fe. So you are trying to sing with creatures not only to gain them as friends and allies, but to eventually gain their abilities. So for example, let's say that you're a bird.
Okay.
Birds can fly.
Yes.
I cannot.
Oh, no.
I would like to be able to fly, but as I only have these little puny glidey wings and not much else beyond that, I really can't. So if I want to get from point A to point B very quickly, I can't do it myself. I would have to either walk or climb trees or jump, traverse the world through platforming. Or if I have gained the ability of the bird song, I can just go to the top of the tree, sing my little bird song, and then a big bird comes over and it's like, hey, want to ride on my back? And you're like, hell yes, I
Nice.
do.
I would love to see the sky.
It's
the ground
fantastic.
From the skies.
Indeed. Off we go, sir. And it's really sweet how all of this happens. Like, the game really does give you a very just kind of feel-good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually kind of creepy. Like, certain parts of the game, the coloring can actually be kind of creepy, and it gives you the feel of a ghost story sometimes, but it's never ominous per se. Now, there are sections where that does come into play, but if you're just out in the world and you're trying to platform, maybe get some new abilities, figure out where you're going next, that's not really part of the game. So let's say that I want the bird ability, though, and I want to be able to really use it to its maximum extent. I may have only encountered little birds up till then, but I need a big bird to be able to actually unlock the full potential of the song and gain the ability. And the way that the game takes you through this is very intuitive, and it's very well paced. I will say that the pacing of Fe is one of the areas that it can really shine, or that it can really tank. Because the speed at which you progress through the game really, not necessarily the speed, the flow at which you progress through the game physically very much impacts your experience. When I first started up the game the very first time and I was going through probably the first kind of one or two sections, I was actually not enjoying myself.
Oh, really?
I was like, it's very pretty. I like it a lot. I'm not really,
Not much here.
I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I was actually kind of having a bit of anxiety. I was like, oh no, am I going to be
Did I waste $20?
I was worried that I was going to be disappointed because there are some mixed reviews. Like, there are definitely people out there who are like, you know what, it's not that great. And I'm like, you shut your whore mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. So I will say that I think it's a fantastic game, but there are areas, especially in the beginning, where it can feel frustrating and really clunky and not that great of an experience. But the more abilities you gain, the further you progress into the game, the more the flow picks up. If you can get that good flow where you're really making progress through a level and really doing like some really smooth platforming, it's a really good feeling. It makes you feel very accomplished in the game, and you're like, yes, I'm a badass. I mean, I'm not actually, because I'm a nice little fox creature, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And as far as the actual conflict of the game goes, This is something that I haven't gotten to the resolution of yet. Again, this is a first impressions thing, but the whole point of the game is you as Fe, you're trying to protect this world and the creatures in it from these nameless evil entities that I call stonewalkers, because they're like, you've seen them in the trailer. They're these big kind of humanoid creatures that have one single eye in the middle of their spiked skull that acts as like a searchlight. So the eye glows, it gives out like a cone of light that shows you where they're looking at any time. And what they do with that is you will, like through cutscenes basically, you'll see them snatching up creatures from the world. Like, let's just say I made friends with that bird over there, and then I go over this way, and then I turn back, and my bird friend is gone. It's because the stonewalkers got him. They like shoot out this weird kind of otherworldly net and like capture other creatures, and you're like, you sons of bitches.
My bird friend.
My bird friend. I will get you back, bird friend.
A big bird, no!
And it actually, like, every time it happens to another animal, my anxiety shoots through the roof.
Yeah.
Because it's those Pikmin feelings. I'm like, no man left behind.
Oh, that's right. You hate to leave your Pikmin.
I hate to leave
don't
my
let the
Pikmin.
die.
So it's very, it definitely motivates me to progress through the game a lot more quickly because I need to save all of my friends.
Yeah.
But the Stonewalkers, you know nothing about them. You just know that they're bad and that you know when they're coming because the world color and tone will change from like that really beautiful calming tones of purples and blues and greens and just really beautiful pretty environments to red, orange, white, bad stuff, shadows everywhere, and you're like, oh my god, this is horrible. Like the first time you actually run into them in a certain area of the game, you're like, I don't know what's happening here, but it's bad. Yeah, but it's gotta be bad because all of the sound goes away from the game.
Ooh.
And the further you get closer to them, the more it goes from like purple to red, and you're like, oh, this can't be good. This is not good. I need to turn around. And then you actually run into one of them, and if they see you, you essentially just like one hit kill. Oh. Because if they see you and they actually manage to get to you, like you have a bit of a delay before they actually get to you, but they're very fast, and their movements are extremely creepy. When they see you, they go from upright to like these kind of spiderly crawlies, like movements on the ground. It's quite scary. They're really terrifying, and they're very fast once they actually spot you. So if you're able to run away, you can run and hide, but there's no way you can actually fight them. There's no fighting the Stonewalkers. You just either avoid them or you escape from them if they notice you. If they notice you, they basically cast out that net and trap you, and it's just game over. The game just sends you back to your last checkpoint by default. Now, the Stonewalkers and their story is really a very integral part of the game. So without any spoilers, their perspective is really well done by Fe. So at certain points in the game, you can optionally find these collectible items, which are basically these little crystal eyes. And if you find them, Fe will like pick one up and hold it up to his own eye, and the game teleports you very briefly into the view of a Stonewalker. So you're suddenly first-person perspective. You are the Stonewalker. It's abundantly obvious that you are because you're like through a pinhole view and everything is red and they're all of your friends and they're like weird alien robotic motions at you and you're like, yeah, me too, buddy. And it's interesting to see that different parts of these crystal views are clearly things that have happened in the past. They're not things that a Stonewalker is doing at the time. It's something that has already happened.
Okay.
And through these these are very brief moments in the game, a full Stonewalker view, depending on how fast you choose to make them go, which is not fast. If they're not actively chasing after you, again, they're very slow. It's really just seconds. So you might only be able to see the Stonewalker view for like 20 seconds, and then that's all there is because you just had one crystal. But through finding a bunch of these crystal eyes and putting the views together, the game does a fantastic job of kind of building out what they are in a very slow-paced and intentional way. And I really like that.
Nice.
And technically, all of these are optional. You actually don't have to pick up any of the crystal eyes. You don't have to know anything about the Stonewalkers other than that they're bad news bears. But learning more about them, I think, is where the game's real story comes from. Because again, this is a game with no dialogue. There's no like written artifacts that you can find. It's just you as Fe, and in the case of the crystal eyes, the view from the Stonewalkers.
Okay.
The one exception to that would be another kind of collectible item in the game, which are runes. So the stone walkers are apparently real artistes. They love to carve stories from their own past, kind of hieroglyph style, onto certain stones. And if you get close enough to one and sing at it, it activates the rune and it like lights up. It's actually really cool to find them because it gives you just these very impressionistic, just briefest of ideas about what are they doing. What are these stone creatures? Why are they here? What are they doing? Yeah. Why am I here? And those are the questions that the game asks you in a very introspective way.
Okay.
And I think that's where I'm really getting the maximum amount of enjoyment out of the game. It explains nothing to you that you don't explain to yourself. It gives you the barest amount of information, and you're just left with questions.
Okay.
And through puzzling those out on your own and thinking like, well, what do I think happened? Why are the Stonewalkers here? What do I think about that? I'm having a really fun time trying to put the mystery together on my own.
Nice.
And I don't know where it's going to go because this is a first impression, but so far I am really enjoying it.
So that is like the story then of the game. Is finding out like the origin of the Stonewalkers and why you're on this planet or place.
Absolutely. And as far as the game's tone goes, it is very much helped by the soundtrack. The soundtrack is beautiful.
I was hoping that this one
would my gosh,
I mean, obviously, because it looks like Ori in the Blind Forest, I'm hoping that it has a soundtrack,
now, I will
just
say,
like Ori's.
Nothing can beat Ori in the Blind Forest.
No.
That's just impossible. It's a masterclass. Gareth Coker just can't be beat. But it is beautiful for what it is. And what the game does incredibly well, I think it's like the second big mission that you have, like the second big part of the game where you're trying to rescue a particular animal. And the way that you do it and the way that you progress from beginning to end of that enclosed mission is so beautifully done. That was actually one of the spoilers from my Twitter. That image that you saw, that was part of that mission. And when you progress from point A to point B, the closer you get to the culmination of that end, the more the music very gradually goes into crescendo to fantastic effect. When you finally get to the end and the music is like at its swell, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm gonna cry. This is so beautiful. This is such a good time.
So going back to like what we were talking about earlier, is this one that you could listen to without having the context of the game and you would still be enjoyable?
Absolutely.
Like, because it'll probably be a while before I play this game, if at all.
So really just certain tracks, because the game also uses a lack of music to great effect as well. If you're just out in the world and nothing is really happening, a very minimalistic soundtrack will play. It's really much more nature sounds, creaking wood. It feels like you're in a Scandinavian magical forest, which is exactly what Zoink was going for.
Right.
So it's really only at these very impactful times of the game that the music will really come into play in a big way. And again, that's to great effect. Like, it's helping the game that those big musical pieces are being reserved for very specific parts.
Cool.
So, but you could look it up. You could be like Fe OST on YouTube, and whatever it spits you out, it's all going to be gold. It's fantastic. They mostly err on the side of very emotional string pieces. It uses a lot of cello, a lot of violin, maybe a little piano. Did I imagine that, or was that actually in it?
I could see it being in there. I don't know.
I know it's very strings heavy, so it's very orchestral, very symphonic. It's very symphonic, strings heavy. There may actually not be any piano now that I'm thinking about it. I'd have to look it back up. Okay. But the one thing that I will say is borderline, not ruining the game, but it's the biggest drawback. And this may in fact be unique to Switch, the frame rate. So for this to be such an aesthetically hinged game, you know, the vision of the game is what it is pinning itself on, is the aesthetic appearance of it. And the frame rate can just tank that.
Really?
There's certain parts of the game, and again, I think this might be the Switch, where the frame rate just is like, and you're like, that's so jarring. Annoying. And again, the thing is flow is really important to this game. And if the frame rate comes in and just totally craps your flow out, you're like, well, now I'm mad. Yeah. Now I'm not happy anymore. So the frame rate is definitely not doing the game any favors. I'm very interested to know if that's different on the other platforms. I'm betting that probably doesn't happen on PC. It probably doesn't happen on PS4. It might on Xbox. Who knows, right? Xbox is such a wild card. But the Switch does have a pretty well-known problem with frame rate.
Yeah.
So I will say that if you're thinking about getting Fe, you certainly can get it for the Switch, but be prepared for the frame rate issues. If you have the ability to get it on a different platform, I honestly might recommend it.
Really? See, because in my head, again, not sure if I'll get to that one or not, or when I'll get to it. And in my head, that seems to be a game that I would want to play on the Switch. So that's kind of interesting that you would.
I mean, I think that in terms of where you would place it in your gamer mind, it goes with the Switch.
Okay.
Goes with the Switch or PlayStation. I would really kind of allot it to either one, but obviously you could play it on PC. I think it's available on Steam. No matter what platform you choose, my hope is that the frame rate is improved on others.
Nice.
So just if you're getting it for the Switch, be aware that the frame rate is occasionally terrible, and it is very frustrating.
Well, it's like, on average, how often does that happen?
Frequently.
Oh, really?
It is actually a frequent problem.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, it's
so
very
it's not like once
unfortunate.
every half hour.
No, it's pretty common.
That's kinda rough.
Yeah, so it is pretty rough. It's definitely a huge drawback to the experience. So again, if you're thinking about getting it, maybe go with PlayStation. I feel like that's probably going to be significantly less of a problem. I'd have to do some research on it, though, to know for sure. But of course, I'm trying not to have anything about this game spoiled for myself.
And you go looking up like that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
you're going to
so
see
I'm like,
something
well,
you
I
don't want to see.
can't look anything up because I don't want to have anything spoiled. I
Yeah.
know that I'm doing it on Twitter, but that doesn't mean that I want it spoiled for me. That's exactly how spoilers work.
Yep.
So I'm really interested to get to the end of this game. It's actually longer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, how long do you think this
I'm
is? Like, where do you think you're at?
You can kind of view the world map, but all of the sections of it don't immediately pop out. I think I might be maybe. Oh wait, actually, I would say I'm halfway through.
Okay.
And I'm basing that on the amount of abilities I have versus how many I know I'm capable of.
Okay.
So the way that you get abilities is also very tied to how much progress you make in the game. So I do believe that I'm halfway done.
Okay.
And by now, actually, my initial thought was that I would have been done by now. So it is turning out to be a longer game than anticipated, which is a good thing.
Nice.
So yeah.
Initial impression of the game. Where are you sitting?
I would happily give it a 95% if it weren't for the frame rate.
Okay, so because of that.
Frame rate takes it down to like 85. 85% love.
Okay.
So if you can get it on another platform where that's not a problem.
That's still pretty high.
Stellar. Yeah,
85 is still pretty
That's
high.
the thing. So even with the terrible frame rate, it's not stopping me from playing.
Good.
And it's definitely the kind of game where I'm like, man, I really want to get home and play Fe. So it's not like Breath of the Wild level of obsession, but it's very much a game that you do want to see the conclusion of.
Okay.
I really want to know what happens with the Stonewalkers. Who are they? Why are they here? And the mystery of the game is very intriguing. So yeah, would recommend definitively.
Nice. It's always good to have another game out there that you would want people to play.
Oh, there's no
talk
words,
about.
so Sam might like it.
Oh, there you go. Is it just quick gameplay, like getting
No,
right
it's
into
just
it?
platforming. It's
There
just
you go.
platforming.
She loves platformers. It's a good way to go about it. All right, well, that wraps up our main topics for today. So obviously, we both give hearty recommendations for these two games, For Honor and Fe. So go check those out. Obviously, we'd like to hear your impressions of those games as well. So if you have played these games or have played them and hate them and want to let us know, you can do that obviously by sending us an email, teamchatpodcast@gmail.com, or following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, commenting in the YouTube video below. All those different ways you can go about getting in contact with us. Or if you're a patron, sending us a message on our Discord. But before we go, we do have to do our first entry into the soundtrack spotlight.
Woo! Let's all cheer! Inaugural spotlight.
That's supposed to be like a beam of light.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's what I
Well,
was.
that just makes me think of the Stonewalkers. I don't like that at all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So, like I said, Brandon is our first submission for the soundtrack spotlight. He actually did it unknowingly because he put a song onto our Facebook page, and I was like, that's going to be it.
It's like, good job, Brandon.
Good job. Way to look ahead. So, Brandon, the soundtrack that he brought up for us to listen to today is from Bayonetta.
I believe that he's currently in the process of playing Bayonetta's 1 and 2 for the Switch,
the
which
Switch.
came out on the same day that Fe did.
Oh,
what
so
bad
you were
luck.
like-
I know. I was like,
you were tossing it up there.
Gosh darn it.
So the song that he chose is "Fly Me to the Moon" Climax. So a little bit of background. We'll play that at the end of the episode, like what we used to do with the soundtrack contest. But a little bit about it. The Bayonetta soundtrack was released in Japan this is from Wikipedia, was released in Japan on November 4th, 2009.
I can't believe that game is that old.
The album contains 5 discs with 150 tracks used in the game, composed by Hiroshi Yamaguchi, Masada Ueda, Rei Kondo, Norihiki Hibino, I hope I'm saying these right, Arena Niwa, Takayasu Sidioka.
Just say Genji, 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 Hanzo,
That seems
Genji.
slightly racist.
It is a little bit.
I am appalled.
You got me.
I am appalled.
Oh, that's funny.
Aaron Niwa. Here say those. Takahiro Izutani, Yoshitaka Suzuki, Naoto Tanaka, and Mitsuhira Fukuyama. Which I would hope for 150 songs or tracks, like you would need a little help with that.
And that's absolutely indicative that it's a game by Platinum Games. Because, for example, the Nier Automata soundtrack, again, that's a Platinum Games game. So many tracks.
Which actually,
my
saying
gosh.
that, and the little bit that I have played of Bayonetta and the little bit that I've listened to the Nier Automata soundtrack from when you've played it, they have similar sounds.
Similar sound styles.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I honestly have a hard time describing what that is.
They're out there, man. They're in a category of their own.
And that's really, I guess, the only way to describe
Yeah.
it. So, the song that we're going to be playing again is from the Bayonetta soundtrack. The song title is Fly Me to the Moon Climax. So, give your ears a listen. But with that, that concludes this episode of Team Chat Podcast. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined by Rachel Mogan.
Adios.
We'll see you all next time. Stick around for the song.